370 Yada Yahowah, Azab, separation. 7. Chalaq, Duplicitous. The lost and blind. 2,700 years ago, the Prophet Howsha began a train of thought which begins and ends with references to sowing and reaping. His intent is to remind his people that they have ceased to be productive. Yisrael, those who contend with God, Yisrael, is shriveling, becoming a degenerate and destructive. Rakab, is discouraging, now laid waste when he should have been a healthy, fruitful, and plentiful vine, jivan, tendril. The fruit, pari, he puts forth, shawa, he yields and offers, is for himself, lahu. As with the rabbis, the more, rab, he produces, la pari hu, the more numerous and grander the altars, rabah la harmais beach. As, his land, la eres hu, improved, becoming more productive, tob, so too, la, their stone pillars, matzabah, religious memorials of stone to false gods, improved, yazab, became more numerous and attractive, pleasing to him. Howsha, he saves, Hosea 10:1. Rakab is a double entendre, an oxymoron with its own built-in contradiction. It was perfect for Israel because the more productive and luxurious their life, the more shriveled and degenerate their souls became. After a while they became particularly adept at building religious shrines and erecting monuments, both 371 of which would crumble, as would their hopes of restoring their relationship with Yahowah. Similarly, the wealthier we become, the more robust the economy and powerful the military, the more we come to rely on things, the more religious and patriotic we become, the further we jeopardize our relationship with God. It is interesting, of course, that Yahowah seldom asks his people to build anything for him. A single home was sufficient. And yet, the religious have constructed millions of buildings, many grand, for their gods and for themselves. Yahowah is in the business of giving, of lifting us up while raising us as his children, providing for our needs. Those other guys, well, if they actually existed and were conversant, we could ask them why they need so many houses, shrines, and monuments. Azab is another internal irony. It highlights the inescapable connection between success and failure. I recall the day I became a billionaire, albeit for the briefest of moments. My first public statement was, "You are never closer to your greatest failure than you are at the moment of your greatest triumph." It proved prophetic. I was crucified publicly on the cover of Business Week magazine just over a year later. While nothing they wrote was accurate, it served as an ideal crucible for this mission. Simply stated, success breeds self-reliance. Yahowah created us for the purpose of the relationship, and he wants us to rely on his provisions and love. Yisrael, however, had charted a different course. Their thinking and judgment, labhem, their inclinations and motivations, are divided and duplicitous, Chalaq, apportioned and misleading, seducing and dispersing, divisive and deceitful. So now as a result, they must be declared guilty, provide recompense, and suffer the punishment, HaShem, they are liable for their wrongdoing and will 372 suffer the consequence, paying for what they have done, Kal imperfect. He, himself, will break down and demolish, Araf, he will destroy by smashing, their altars, Mizbeach, religious shrines, totally devastating and destroying, Shaddad, ravaging and ruining, their religious monuments, matzabah, stone pillars, memorials, and obelisks. Howsha, he protects, Hosea 10:2. One would have to be either ignorant or belligerent to erect a synagogue, church, mosque, temple, or shrine to God when he said that he will personally tear them down. What's the point? Are they completely unaware of Yahowah's message or just so duped by their religion that it does not matter? Pyramids and obelisks have long served as tributes to the gods. It is why it is disconcerting that an Egyptian religious obelisk sits in the center of the Vatican's circle leading to St. Peter's Basilica, and a pyramid points skyward at the center of the National Mall directly across from the White House and leading to Capitol Hill. There is another on US currency, with the watchful eye of Horus gazing down upon us. God is not amused. The realization that God intends to break down and demolish religious buildings while destroying their monuments is the antithesis of what the faithful have been led to believe. This demonstrates how universally opposed Yahowah is to anything with either religious or patriotic overtones. This also means that the last place anyone should be upon his return is in a synagogue, church or mosque, state house or national shrine. Except, now, they say, Amar, for us, La Anakhu, there is no leadership, Ein Melech, because we do not respect, Lo Ye'eth, we do not revere and are not concerned about, Yahowah, Yahowah 373, as directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence. And as for our leaders, Melech and Aknu, what, can they do for us, Asar la Aknu? Howsha 10-3. They speak voluminous words, Dabar Dabarim, they talk and then talk some more, with empty promises, vain oaths, dreadful curses, and devastating pronouncements invoking harm, shoah, shavala, futile pleas, empty vows and false recitals, lifeless laments, idolatrous invocations, and futile religious pledges. To make, carat, they establish and cut through separation, a covenant, berith, a relationship agreement, binding treaty, and pledge. Decisions, mishpat, judgment, the means to resolve disputes, the ability to be perceptive and discerning, to base conclusions on evidence and reason, spring up and blossom, perish, sprout and flourish like poison, kahar rosh, like venom, like a bitter and deadly substance, the toxin of serpents, in the furrows, al-talem, of the field, sardeh, where things take root and grow. Howsha, he liberates, Hosea 10:4. Should we want to be the best of what Israel represents, individuals who engage and endure with God, we only need one leader, and he is Dowd. There is nothing apart from Moseh and Dowd that anyone else is going to do for us that has any enduring benefit. No matter how prolific and voluminous the words of the preacher or politician, they carry less weight than sound waves reverberating in the air. Their promises are empty, their vows unfulfilled, and their pronouncements futile. With Yahowah, there is but one covenant, and it has not yet been renewed. With men, there are many, but even collectively, they hardly merit mention. 374 opinions have become like freckles in that almost everyone seems to have them. But when it comes to making informed and reasoned decisions, the world draws a blank. Mankind's conclusions are typically toxic, serving as a nerve agent to paralyze people's thinking. Shoah is one of the Torah's most devastating terms. In most Hebrew lexicons, it reads shaf, but that's purposely misleading because there is no V in the Hebrew alphabet. This linguistic manipulation becomes especially obvious when one considers that the word is shinwa aleph, with the vowel wa producing the O sound and the vowel aleph conveying the same sound as an A in English. Therefore, it was originally pronounced shoah. It means, to ravage and destroy, to devastate and desolate, leaving a lifeless wasteland. It speaks of that which is empty and vain, dreadful and futile, even worthless and ruinous. I suppose that is why it was selected as the name of the rabbinical ploy called the Shiva system that was deployed to deliberately conceal and corrupt the pronunciation of certain letters, namely the Yod, Hey, and Wah. Not so coincidentally, these just happen to be the only letters that comprise Yahowah's name, YHWH. By implementing the Shiva system, the Masoretic text of the Torah has now been corrupted by these deceivers. So, we should not be surprised that they are the very same people who promoted the myth that no one knows how to pronounce the name of God. Few things have been as shoah, devastating. Speaking of destructive, had rabbis not concealed the pronunciation of Yahowah's name, HaShem and Judaism, Jesus and Christianity, as well as Allah and Islam would not exist. It would have been impossible to fool the world into believing that there was a God other than Yahowah. And yet, because they committed this heinous crime, the 375 most deceitful, destructive, deadly, and damning of all doctrines has been unleashed, devastating everything it has touched. As I first approached this passage, I was expecting to make the following point: with God, there is but one berith, covenant, but between men, there are many. And yet, while almost every English translation of this verse errantly renders berith covenants, in the text itself, berith is singular and absolute, as it is everywhere. So, while man is prone to making many counterproductive pledges and agreements, Yahowah is so insistent that there is only one covenant, he is opposed to presenting berith in the plural form even when it applies to human schemes. Many Hebrew words have dark and light connotations. And mishpat is among them. When we mishpat, exercise good judgment and come to know Yahowah and embrace his covenant, God uses his mishpat, means to justly resolve disputes to exonerate us, so that we become perfect and can enter his company. But for those who ignore the terms and conditions of the covenant, the mishpat represent the full force and power of Yahowah's judgment. So, in this case, mankind's political and religious mishpat reflect man's attempt to usurp Yahowah's guidance, replacing it with their own judicial systems which must be obeyed. Yahowah even calls man's attempts to govern himself toxic. The inhabitants, shaken, of Samaria, Shomaran, conspire to show their reverence, grow willing to live estranged, dwelling together as aliens, inciting others in a strange place, terrified and afraid while standing in awe, for the Kaf, La Eglah, of Bethaun, the home of trouble, Bethaun, Avon, the house of vanity, idolatry, futility, and sorrow. Indeed, the people, Kym, mourn and grieve for it, Abal al-Hu, they get emotional regarding it. And its 376 religious priests, Komahu, the clerics performing pagan rituals, from Kamar, blackness and gloom, rejoice over it, Jil al-Hu, delight in it, forming circles around it. but because of its reputation and glorification, I'll carve out you, based upon the attribution of status and the rewards derived from the giving of gifts, it will be exposed and taken, galah, it is revealed and made known, then removed, from them, minhu. Howsha 10-5, then, gameth, the thing itself will be brought to Assyria, Hula Ashur Yabal, as tribute, Minsha, as an obligatory gift and offering, to the contentious and warlike king, La Melech Uareb. Ephraim, has chosen to accept being, Lakek, has grasped hold and is experiencing, Kal imperfect, a reprehensible disappointment, Bashna, shameful and unsuitable. And Yisrael, those who contend with God, Yisrael, is humiliated and should be ashamed, Bosh, is also disconcerting and disappointing, Kal imperfect, because of his advice and counsel, his plans and schemes, and his revolting idols, Mininet Sahu, as a result of his deliberations and conspiracies. Howsha, he delivers, Hosea 10:6. Sumerians were observant and religious, as are the Haredim. They once grieved for the calf of the house of futility and sorrow, but now they mourn at the graves of fallen rabbis. These Israelites were mortified that their God was being sent away, which is ironic since they had no issue with removing Yahowah from their lives. That is a rather sad commentary. It speaks poorly of human intelligence and proves that it doesn't take much to fool most people, especially when they are as unaware as most are today. Jill has a rather ominous secondary meaning, circle. Circles of stones were prevalent in sun god worship, with Stonehenge being a glaring example. 377 Church, as we have discussed, is derived from Circe, the daughter of the Teutonic sun god, Helios. It is the root of circle, circuit, and circus. In that Jill is being tied directly to idolatrous religions, this is particularly odious. Judaism's ode to the nearest star is also concerning. While the Star of David has nothing to do with Dowd, Yahowah, Yisrael, or the Torah, it is among the religious symbols Yahowah is denouncing. The verb Howsha selected to describe how Bashna, reprehensible and disappointing Ephraim had become is lakak, which means to select, receive, and grasp hold. Stated using the kal stem and imperfect conjugation, they had actually grabbed hold of their religious impropriety and were never letting go. While my response to Yahowah and his Berith, Miqra'ey, and Torah is the opposite of Yisrael's, my only concern in life is to never disappoint him. We have witnessed the reprehensible and disconcerting Eitzah, advice and counsel, disingenuous worship, and religious deliberations of the chosen people, and realize that God has already endured and suffered too much. It is well past time that we do our utmost to please him. Samarias, Shomarown, observant, west of the Jordan, east of the Mediterranean, south of Galilee, and north of the Dead Sea, leadership, Melech, rulers, from despots and dictators to kings, will be cut off and wiped out, Dama, will perish and cease to exist. It will be like, Hukah, a snapped splinter and discordant twig, Kazif, a provoked and enraged stick that has broken off, on the presence of the waters, Al-Panamaim. Howsha 10-7. The shrines, Momar, the religious sites and worship centers, to the Arwen, religious deceit and vanity, Arwen, to the moral corruption and damaging 378 relationships, to the troublesome false testimony, and destructive idolatry, of Yisrael, of those who are contentious with God, Yisrael, will be overturned and decimated, Shamid, will be demolished and destroyed, exterminated and annihilated, Nephil perfect. Thorn and thistle, Kautzwadada, prickly plants with no value, produce no fruit, are irritating, and whose thorns serve as abhorrent goads, will ascend upon, Allah al, their altars, Mizbeach-hem. Then they will say, Wa-ma, to the high places among the mountains, La ha-harim, conceal us, Kasananaknu, hide and cover us, clothe and forgive us, and to the hills, Wa-la ha-jaibar, fall on us, Naphalanaknu. Howsha, he frees, Hosea 10:8. Since Samaria includes portions of the contentious West Bank, it's not just Israel's leaders who should be wary but, also, those of the Fakestinians. They will all be wiped out. God has needed to clean house for a long time. The world's progressives and conspiratorialists, who have gotten their jollies by posturing the false pretense that Palestinians have had their land stolen and occupied by Zionists, will be but splintered and discordant twigs before the ensuing flood. And since the initial deluge will be comprised of Muslim jihadists, the irony will be delicious. After the region's leadership is swept away, ridding Israel of the parasites infecting the West Bank, Yahowah is going to overturn and destroy every religious shrine, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish. The sources of deceit, false testimony, moral corruption, and vanity will be demolished and annihilated, from buildings to people. For them, there will be no savior and no Messiah, no place to hide, nowhere to turn. Considering that their fate is to be judged, held accountable, and sent to Sheol, they will seek the death that eludes them. 379 From the days Min Yaumim, of Jaibar, Ha-Jaibar, a Benjamite town of ill repute and annihilation, you have missed the way and led others astray. Chatter, you have been wrong, immoral, and offensive, Yisrael, Yisrael. And remaining there, Shamamod, still there, in Jaibar, Ha-Jaibar, they cannot overcome, Lo Nezag, they cannot move past, Hyphal imperfect, the infighting, Milchama, the battle lines are drawn, against the unjust children, Al-Beni Orwa, the sons of iniquity, the evil offspring. Howsha 10-9? In that I am ready to do so, when the time is right, Bar-Awa Eni, I will discipline and teach them, Yashahem, I will chastise and correct them, I will reprimand and admonish them. The people, when, Ambar, the rest of the family, they are gathered against them, Wahsafalhem, they will be captured and confined, Asahem, they will be imprisoned, for their repeat offences, Shneimeinhem, will be punished for the second appearance of impropriety. Howsha, he saves, Hosea 10:10. Clearly, God has not forgotten, nor will he. There is no excuse for the Israelites' Sodom. But that is not the worst of it because, according to God, Israel remains mired in Jaibar. The infighting among Israelites is as bad as it has ever been. And since Yahowah has withdrawn from Israel, he has been neither guiding nor disciplining Yahweh. But soon this will change, because he will be correcting a remnant while chastising those who have opposed their return. And in this case, because God has addressed them all as they are likely Israelites, the returnees and the repeat offenders. If so, then we are again witnessing Yahowah's return as both Savior and Judge before his people. 380 This then is God's invitation to people poised to go one way or the other. Ephraim, ashes, Yphraim, is a trained, skillfully taught and diligently instructed, lamed, and appropriately educated, cow, egler, female bovine, who can be passionate about threshing or trampling, Ahab Lardush, who is fond of treading, and so, Eni, passed over, Obar Al, I spared, her fair neck, Tomzawa high, the potential for goodness in her throat. Ephraim, Ephraim, I will transport, Rakab, I will mount and ride, grasp hold of and drive, Hyphal imperfect. Yahweh, Yahweh, he will inscribe, Sharash, he will engrave, Kal imperfect, tilling for himself, Sadad Lahu, either breaking new ground for himself or preparing the ground to be receptive for his benefit, Peel imperfect. Howsha 10:11. Jacob, reward or consequence, Jacob, my stance, I grab the heel, Jacob, from Akab, to receive a benefit or suffer a penalty for circumventing and overreaching, digging in by being stubborn or embedding one's heels to be steadfast, you should choose to sow, Zara, of your own initiative and will, scatter the seeds on tilled ground, Kal imperative, for yourselves, La Atom, for you to approach, that which is right, La Zardaka, that which is vindicating and correct, just and prosperous, validating and acquitting, reap, Kazar, choose to produce, gather in, and harvest, Kal imperative, an open communication, pay, a mouthful and taste, speech which is, of loyal love, steadfast devotion, and generous benefits, Kesed, kind, compassionate, and merciful. Choose to till, making arable and receptive, Naya, furrow and cultivate, electing to become an heir by choosing the enlightening presence of the proper guidance, Kal imperative, for your benefit, La Atom, for you to 381 draw near, the fallow ground, Naya, exposing the land to the light, to the enlightened guidance and leadership which leads to becoming an heir and luminary. It is time, Wa'eth, to seek, Diroshesh, to inquire about and find, look for and develop a relationship with, Yahowah, Yahowah, the Almighty's proper designation pronounced as instructed by his Torah, guidance on his higher, existence and his role in our Shalom, reconciliation as our Eloah, God. The restoring testimony of the eternal witness, will come, will arrive to pursue the harvest, as a source of accurate and honest teaching and guidance to exonerate you, Yara Tzedek La Atom, as a refreshing and renewing display of valid and correct instructions and directions to vindicate, and justly acquit you, Hyphal imperfect. Howsha, he delivers, Hosea 10:12. Ephraim may be likened to a cow, but nonetheless, she was groomed to be special. Diligently instructed by God, she was raised to thrive on his threshing floor, the place where the useful grain is separated from the chaff. And it was for this that Yahowah saved her from the crucibles of oppression, extending the lives of the children of Yisrael during Passover so that, once free of the invasive fungus of religion and politics during unyeasted bread, they could live up to their calling. There was a potential for goodness in her even if she was prone to trample the things of God underfoot. Rakab, which was translated as I will transport, is typically rendered as I will yoke in English Bibles, even though that is not what the word means. The intent is to say that God is going to ride Israel until the bitter end, grasping hold of the most wayward of his children until some of them are willing to listen, and come home. At the same time, Yahweh is encouraged to resume his mission, which is to inscribe the words of Yeh. And 382 Since there will be new guidance given to those blessed with the opportunity to live with God forevermore, they will be tilling new ground, making it safe for us to explore the universe. So now it is time for the descendants of Rakab to choose Yahowah. After a 2,500-year sabbatical, they are being afforded the opportunity to resume sowing the seeds that grow into the children of God by cultivating the truth. Rather than continuing to pile more rubbish into their Talmud, they will finally do what is right, validating that which is vindicating. Although Israel has lain fallow through the millennia, with a lot of listening and a little effort, those who have answered this invitation will reap what God has sown. They will demonstrate their steadfast devotion to the truth along with their enduring love for Yahowah, all while capitalizing upon the generous benefits of the covenant relationship. Israel will blossom again, bearing the fruit of the Spirit, as Yahweh finally live up to their name and calling. It is time to seek Yahowah and develop a relationship with him. To that end, God has equipped a Yara, source of accurate and honest teaching. This restoring testimony comprised of his guidance is now on display as an eternal witness to the Word of God. The directions are here for your vindication. Douche, rendered as threshing or trampling, is particularly significant in the harvest of souls and integral to Yahowah's frequent use of grain to represent those anointed with his Spirit and living in the Berith, covenant family. The metaphor permeates the Miqra'ey. To douche is to trample grain stalks and their heads with hooves in order to separate the viable fruit from the useless stalks and chaff. Done incorrectly, this was spiritual suicide and 383 religious cannibalism. When the grain is trampled rather than threshed, the labor is counterproductive. Naya was deployed as a verb and as a noun. Superficially, it describes tilling arable ground, making that which was fallow receptive again. But when we dig a little deeper, we discover that those who choose the enlightening luminance and guidance of God become heirs, inheriting all he has to offer. Insights such as these demonstrate the benefits of amplification and of exploration as we search to find Yahowah in his words. Similarly, ad, which can be rendered as until, is much richer when amplified. Its primary definition, when the same two letters are vocalized as ed, speaks of God's restoring witness and eternal testimony. Ed is the operative aspect of mode. It is the Hebrew designation for what the religious, influenced by the Latin Church, would call Scripture. Yara is the source of teaching and guidance upon which the title Torah was predicated, providing an outpouring of Yahowah's instructions and directions. Unfortunately, a very long time would pass before the Israelites would listen and respond to Yahowah's advice. They had made a religion of ignoring it, whether the truth was revealed through Moseh or Howsha. You have inscribed and devised, Sharash, you have written and plotted, Kal perfect, that which is wrong, Resha, inappropriate and evil. You have reaped, Kazar, injustice, Ola, that which is damaging and harmful. You have consumed, Akal, you have devoured, the product of deception, the fruit of lies, and the result of delusions, Parikakash, the harvest of error, because, Ky, you have trusted in your way, Vatage bar Derikota, you have relied upon and believe in your path, stumbling 384 and falling on the road to your missteps, as well as in your numerous fighters and politicians, Bar Rob Jai Bar Otter, your many warriors and people in empowered positions, your acclaimed heroes. Howsha, he liberates, Hosea 10:13. In the choice between writing for Yahowah or for the rabbis, Jews have been scribing the wrong scroll for 20 centuries. In the process, they have become their own worst enemy, reaping a steady diet of injustice. According to God, his people have produced a litany of lies. Even worse, they have come to actually believe their delusions. Having seen rabbis on the warpath, they will not only defend their deceptions, they are obnoxious about it. With all evidence to the contrary, and even with Yahowah's own testimony in irrefutable opposition to them, the religious insist that they are speaking for the very God who is renouncing them. Sometime during the late 1st century CE, the first rabbis, preferring Aramaic, paraphrased the Tanakh into the language of the Babylonians. So far, so bad, but they didn't stop there. In the 3rd century, they transferred their Aramaic renditions into books called Targums, from Tirgam, to interpret through translation. These were designed to reconcile the Hebrew Torah with the new rabbinical religion. If what Yahowah revealed conflicted with their way, they changed the passage to reflect their sentiments. But that wasn't sufficient. The Torah prescribed a number of things in concert with the house of Yahowah. But with the Romans having destroyed it, the rabbis created a religious workaround for the Mishnah. Then in keeping with their new Babylonian bent, in the 3rd through 6th centuries, rabbis inscribed the foundation of their religion within their Babylonian Talmud, supplementing and supplanting the Torah. 385 Again, with all evidence to the contrary, and nothing to support their assertion, rabbis contrived the myth that Lo Zakar and Aknu Shem Hu, we forget his name, now rebranded HaShem, the name, revealed 2 Torahs, one written and the other oral. To polish their turd, they would even claim that what rabbis wrote 2,000 years later in Babylon was actually the oral one that had survived 100 generations without so much as a single word ever being written down. The fact that their Talmud was written in an entirely different style, conveyed a different message, and was attributed to men living in the 6th century rather than to Moseh or Yahowah was irrelevant to the delusion. If you believe them, then I'd like to offer a trip down the yellow brick road, the keys to the Emerald City, and an audience with the great and powerful Oz. While there, you might want to solicit him for a brain. Ruby slippers and dance lessons courtesy of the Lollipop Guild will be thrown in at no extra charge. However, you may want to be wary of the flying monkeys because the rabbis are willing to deploy them against anyone who is sane. Then the tumult of war, Shorn, the chaos and confusion of the devastation, the uproar and commotion of the destruction, will arise, will be fulfilled, among your people, Am Otter. All of your fortifications, Shul Mibzar Otter, each of the defended positions, will be pugnaciously ravaged, Shadad, will be menacingly marauded and brutally ruined, just as, Shalman, worships fire and is readily bribed, a contraction of Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, savagely destroyed and looted, shot, plundered and violently ransacked, Beth-Arbel, ambushing the home of God, Beth-Arbel, to lurk at the house of God, on the day, Bar Yawm, during the time, of the battle, Milchama, of war. As mothers with children, Amal Benim, were dashed to pieces, Ratash, 386 were smashed, sliced, and broken. Howsha, he frees, Hosea 10:14. War is coming to Israel. Muslims will attack first, and those battles may spread into the Jezreel Valley near Megiddo. The last battles will be waged in and around Jerusalem, and while Yahowah will intervene to stop both attacks, we should expect considerable carnage before that time. Wars are confusing and chaotic, as well as destructive and deadly, and these will follow form. Israelites will be ravaged again. We should expect no mercy from the merciless. If it were not for Yahowah's intervention with Dowd, Israel would be totally ransacked. Should you wonder why God would allow Muslims and communists to bludgeon his people prior to curtailing them, the answer is that, without this tumult, Israelites would continue to rely on their rabbis and politicians. It is only when their leadership is shown to be incapable of saving the nation from certain doom that Yahweh will consider giving God a chance. The reason yesterday's Assyrians were as barbaric as today's Muslims is because they serve the same God. And unfortunately, since Islam and Christianity are rabbinical derivatives, their deity shares common traits with what's-his-name. This is what, Kaka, in this manner, will be done to you, Asalatum, what will occur and how they will act against you, at Bethel, the house of God, Bethel, because of the presence, Minpanah, of your loudmouthed and misleading shepherds and miserable countrymen, Atom, you continue to be wrong while displaying a horrible attitude. At dawn, Parshaha, as the day begins and with Satan's arrival, Israel's leadership, Melech Yisrael, 387 will cease to function, be silenced, and perish, Dama, will be completely undone and wiped out. Howsha, he liberates, Hosea 10:15. When the Quran is ordered chronologically and set into the context of Muhammad's disgusting life using the Hadith, one of the many things that becomes particularly obvious is that, without rabbis selling Muhammad Talmud readings in Yathrib, the Quran would have been a fraction of its length, it would have lost all of its credibility, and Islam would not have survived the satanic verses. Similarly with Christianity, had Rabbi Shaul not used what he had learned in rabbinic school about twisting the word of God, there would have been no New Testament or Christian religion. The religions most responsible for abusing Jews were both created by Jews. In other words, because of the presence of the rabbis and their subsequent corruption of Israelites, Jews are going to endure what they have sown. Fortunately, in the end, they will receive their due. This statement suggests that my conclusions regarding Israel's political and religious leaders are correct. Theirs will be an epic failure. The most outspoken will be silenced. Those responsible for Israel's undoing will be no more. Should you wonder why I brought Satan, the adversary, into this picture, the explanation is in the words themselves. Hillel ben Shahar is Satan's name. This is, therefore, one of many indications that the adversary will become more prevalent, as we enter the time of Jacob's troubles. 388 If you are the parent of a rebellious child, you may empathize with Yahowah, telling of his love and anguish as they are vividly conveyed in the historic and prophetic words presented in the opening verses of Howsha 11. When, Yisrael, was young, was an adolescent and child, I loved him, I enjoyed a close, familial relationship with him. Out of the crucibles of religious and political oppression, min Miraim, I called, Kara, I summoned and invited, my son, La Ben Eni. Howsha, he saves, Hosea 11:1. These 6 words, recognizing that in Hebrew the conjunctions, prepositions, and pronouns are combined, tell an amazing story. So, let's examine each of them closely. First, Yisrael. It is a name, a proper noun, so it is useful to translate its meaning, and to be accurate, we must also transliterate the pronunciation as Yisrael. It is a compound of Yisrael, meaning either individuals who engage and endure with God or those who struggle with and contend against the Almighty. Yisrael can either define the reason we were created or depict what His people have become. The name is repeated 2,479 times in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, second only to Yahowah. The second word, Nah, is as revealing. It refers to Israel's youth and, thus, the adolescent years when God's people looked up to and respected their father. With Yisrael being a masculine name, Yahowah affirms that He once loved him and thought of him as his son. This is monumental because it attests to the way Yahowah wants to relate to us. It reveals that He perceived those who gave birth to Yisrael, Abraham and Sarah, Yitzhak and Rebekah, and Jacob, Leah, and Rachel, 389 as His sons and daughters. God, therefore, wants Israel to be His family, raising their children as His own. This means that His Berith, covenant is the apex of His Torah and conveys the essence of His will. This statement further destroys the absurdity of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam being Abrahamic religions. Not only was there nothing religious about Yahowah's relationship with Abraham, but the family dynamic of the Berith they formed also superseded everything else. This realization was reinforced at the time by Yahowah insisting that Abram walk away from Babylon, the cradle of institutionalized religion, the place where the preponderance of the people were confounded and controlled by commingling reality with make-believe. Further, we now understand why Yahowah is so insistent that His children never refer to Him as the Lord. There is no room for worship or a Lord in a loving family. And if that were not enough to negate Judaism outright, sons not only know their father's name, they inherit it, carrying it with them for the rest of their lives. The dual religious myths that no one knows how to pronounce Yahowah and that what's his name should be expunged from Jewish lives are further torn asunder by God's claim of parentage. The third Hebrew word in this statement is Ahab, love. It is the basis of a perfect relationship. Ahab brings us together of our own free will in an affectionate and devoted way. Ahab, like Dowd, the beloved, is the cornerstone of the covenant and house of God. The fourth significant Hebrew term is Miqra'ey, which was translated as crucibles of religious and political oppression. While typically rendered as Egypt in English Bibles, there is a Greek name that is wholly unrelated to this place and time. 390 Miqra'ey, which also addresses a cauldron of governmental, military, economic, and conspiratorial coercion and persecution, is the plural of matzor, to be treated as a foe and besieged during a time of testing and tribulation. Matzor, in turn, is a compound of ma, to question and being bound and constrained, besieged and assaulted, abused and troubled. These things not only represent the conditions the Israelites endured within Miqra'ey, but such harassment was also common throughout almost every human civilization. Digging deeper, a mazrep is a crucible in which impurities of precious metals are separated out. Moseh speaks of distress, anguish and pain, of suffering anxiety in the throes of serious illness and death. Moseh describes hopelessness, and oppression. Mitzorah means diseased and leprous. Miqra'ey is also the name of Ham's son, the grandson of Noach, who is said to be an ancient ancestor of these people, and it is from these deplorable conditions that Yahowah is calling His people. Next, we find Kara. This passage is one of 735 times Yahowah uses it to invite and summon us to meet with Him, to call us out and welcome us into His company and covenant. Kara also means to read and to recite, which is how we receive our invitation to become part of God's eternal family. Kara is to call a person to come into one's presence and to give them a mission to accomplish, often to designate someone by name and title. Most relevant of all, Kara is our introduction to the Berith, covenant and the actionable root of Miqra'ey, the title Yahowah selected to describe His 7 annual invitations to be called out and to meet. And finally, sixth at the conclusion of the statement, we find Ben, child or son. God referred to His people as 391 Beni Yisrael, children of those who engage and endure with God. There is nothing greater to aspire to, no greater honor, than being a child of God. The father-child relationship Yahowah desires perfectly depicts the nature of the Berith Yahweh, covenant family beloved of Yah, we are invited to exemplify. They were invited to meet, to be called out, and to approach, Kara Lahem, they were summoned and welcomed, even encouraged to read and recite, Kal perfect, but instead, Ken, they walked away, Holokmin, they moved apart, Kal perfect. They turned to and presented themselves before, Panahemlah, facing toward, Har Balim, the Lords, Har Balim, those who seek to lord over, own, and control, offering sacrifices, zabach, to false gods, while pasyl, to religious images and objects of worship, while blowing smoke and burning incense, Howsha, he protects, Hosea 11:2. While this invitation was offered to a significant number of people in the early days of Yisrael, it is consistent with Yahowah's approach throughout time. God introduces himself and extends an invitation to those he is interested in becoming part of his family. He only does so once the individual has made his or her decision to walk away from the corrupting influences of religion and politics, and even then, we mortals are afforded the opportunity to accept, ignore, or reject Yahowah's overture. Yahowah introduced himself to Noach and his extended family, to Abraham and Sarah, and later to Moseh, Dowd, and men like Howsha, Yeshaya, and Yirmiyah. I am unaware of anyone, however, other than Moseh and the children of Yisrael at this early stage that Yahowah solicited more than once. And yet, those who received the greatest number of invitations were the most 392 uninterested, repeatedly telling God that they would prefer to worship figments of their imagination than accept Yahowah's offer to make them immortal. To each his own, I suppose. Never one to enjoy a crowd, heaven will be much more sparsely populated as a result. And if that sounds selfish and dismissive, spending an eternity with a bunch of ingrates, this stupid doesn't sound appealing. Baal is the god of Babel, Babylon. He is the Lord God of religion and the author of confusion. Baal is the most prevalent of our Satans, the adversary's titles and names. To choose him over Yahowah is, well, stupid. Yet it is I who taught Ephraim to walk and then set out on a journey of exploration with him, while any raggle Ephraim. I received and accepted them, grasping hold of them, lakakhem, collected, obtained, and guided them, through his Zarawah, productive and protective shepherds, Zarawah the capable arms who sow the seeds for him and who guide his flock with the resolve, and ability to defend and nurture the sheep, especially those who are fruitful in accomplishing the mission when sowing the seeds of truth while advancing the influence of God. But they did not care or acknowledge, while lo Yada, they did not realize, understand or appreciate, that I healed and restored them, Raphahem, that I was their physician and cured them, repairing and renewing them. Howsha, he liberates, Hosea 11:3. The parent and child relationship Yahowah initially enjoyed and tried to maintain with Yisrael speaks volumes about who he is, what he is offering, and what he expects in return. The visual imagery of God teaching his beloved Son to walk at his side so that they could explore the world around them is inviting and reassuring. Imagine all of the wonderful things we will see and hear along the way as we journey among the stars. 393. This is the second time that we find Zarawah in this prophetic portrayal. The implication is that Yahowah received and accepted Yisrael, grasping them by the hand, through Dowd and Moseh, the most productive of the Zarawah. He would lead God's flock to the promised land, teaching, protecting, and guiding them along the way with Moseh. And he would provide the benefits of the covenant through Dowd's fulfillment of the Miqra'ey. Then at long last, he would bring this to his people's attention through the little Z of the last days. And yet, rather than celebrate their return and restoration, the children of Yisrael were so ungrateful and obnoxious, that they told Yahowah they would rather be slaves. They forgot all about God and then created a religion to avoid engaging in a relationship with him. I drew them out and led them, Mashakhem, I took them away, lifted them up, and prolonged their lives, with the joyful promise, Bar Chebel, with a pledge, the guarantee of a joyous procession, of Adam, the resident of the Gan Eden, garden of great joy, who was conceived with a neshama, conscience, with bonds, a oath, with cords, of love, a harbor, of familial affection based upon a devoted relationship. I was, am, and will be, Wahaya, I genuinely and continually exist, Kalim perfect, for them, Lahem, as one who lifts off, raises, and removes, Karum, who frees, the yoke, Ol, the controlling straps, on their jaws, Al-Lokihem, on their cheeks, when I bent down and reached out, Nata, I stooped down and extended myself, to feed and nurture them, El-Huakal. Howsha, he frees, Hosea 11:4. Recognizing that Mashak conveyed two complementary meanings, that Chebel's primary and secondary connotations would likely be lost on the religious, and that theologians would not understand why 394 Adam's name was used in conjunction with it, I considered a score of English Bible translations after composing this translation. I realized that there was something very special here that had likely gone unseen through the millennia. So first, I would like to explain what Yahowah is conveying because it is endearing and pathetic, prophetic and profound. God begins this train of thought by announcing that he once Ahab, loved Yisrael. When he called them out of the tyranny of religious and political oppression, he thought of them as his children. But the more Yahowah summoned them to disassociate themselves from the controlling abuse of human persecution and degradation, the more they walked away from him. The siren call of Habalim, the controlling lords back into Miqra'ey, religious and political oppression was more appealing to these nitwits than reciprocating Yahweh's love. Rather than showing some Yada appreciation of what Yahweh had done for them through the Miqra'ey, they zabach, sacrificed their souls to pasyl, religious images and false gods. So Yahweh reminisces and shares that it was he who had raised the Israelites as his children, Lakak, grasping them by the hand and raggle, teaching them to walk. As they set out on their journey of exploration with Yahweh, he supported and encouraged them through his Zarawah, three distinctly different individuals who, in consort with his strong arm, would lead, protect, heal, and guide his flock safely into the fold. Moseh would present the way. Dowd would enable it. And Yada would explain it to Yahweh. Sadly, the children of Yisrael did not seem to care and would not even Yada acknowledge that he and his son had Raphaim, healed and restored them. The Messiah had provided the means to perfection and reconciliation, and they Yada did not care. 395 Having set the stage, Yahweh wants his children to make the connection between Mashak, withdrawing them from Miqra'ey, the caustic and degrading influences of human civilization, and Mashak leading them to the Chebel, joy promised Adam with the aboth, bonds or a harbor, familial love and affection. Just as God enabled his people to break free of the controlling and oppressive influences of humankind and lovingly led them to the promised land, he is offering to do the same thing once again. This is Yahweh's Towrah, announcement of Kippurim, reconciliation leading to Sukkah, camping out together again as he was with Adam in Gan Eden, the garden of great joy. God was and remains willing and able to lift up his children, raising them by removing the locky, controlling and emaciating influences that have been placed upon them by their religion, so that he can nurture them back to health. In Yahweh's parlance, when Yisrael was young, I loved him, YYV8C7. Out of the crucibles of religious and political oppression, min Miqra'ey, I called, Kara, my son, La ben Eni. They were invited to meet, to be called out, and to approach, Kara Lahem, but instead, they walked away, Min. They turned to and presented themselves before, Panahem La, Habalim, the lords, Habalim, offering sacrifices, zabach, to false gods and religious imagery, while pasyl, while blowing smoke and stinking up the place, Qatar. Yet it is I who taught Ephraim to walk and then set out on a journey of exploration with him, any raggle la Ephraim. I received and accepted them, grasping hold of them, Lakak through his Zarawah, productive and protective shepherds, sowing the seeds 396 which lead us into his arms, Zarawah. But they did not care or acknowledge, while Yada, that I healed and restored them, Ky Raphaim. I drew them out and led them, lifting them up while prolonging their lives, Mashak with the joyful promise, Bar Chebel, of Adam, with bonds, both, of love and familial affection, a harbor. I was, am, and will be, for them, Lahem, as one who lifts off, raises, and removes, the controlling influence of the yoke, on their jaws, Al-Lokihem, by stooping down and reaching out, extending myself, Nata, to feed and nurture them, El-Huakal. Howsha 11:1-4. Missing the point, the JPS rendered the concluding statement, I drew them with cords of a man, with bands of love, and I was to them as they that take off the yoke on their jaws, and I fed them gently. The KJV published, I drew them with cords of a man, with bands of love, and I was to them as they that take off the yoke on their jaws, and I laid meat unto them, while the NKJV revised, I drew them with gentle cords, with bands of love, and I was to them as those who take the yoke from their neck. I stooped and fed them. Then, more recently, the theologians crafting the NLT, non-literal retelling, opined, I led Israel along with my ropes of kindness and love. I lifted the yoke from his neck, and I myself stooped to feed him. They felt that their religion entitled them to add Israel's name and remove Adam's name, truncate the meaning of Mashak and mistranslate Chebel. Yahweh's redemptive plan is perfect. Those who avail themselves of it will never be slaves to man or sin again. But those who compel others to reject his most generous gift will find themselves hauled off into captivity in Shaul. 397 They will not return, Lo Shub, they will not go back, Kal imperfect, to the land, El Eres, to the nation and realm, of the crucibles of religious and political oppression, Miqra'ey, of the cauldrons of governmental, military, economic, and conspiratorial coercion and cruelty, where the people were confined, restricted, and persecuted, plural of Matzor, to be treated as a foe and besieged during a time of testing and tribulation, from to be bound and constrained by an adversary, assaulted as if in a concentration camp, but, Ashur their blessed goddess of good fortune, Ashur-Hu, their version of Asherah, will rule over them, Hu-Melech-Hu, because they refused, Ky-Man, as a result of their resistance and defiance, to return to restore the relationship, La-Shub-Eni, to come back. Howsha 11-5. She will whirl a sword, Chol cherub, she will turn her daggers and cause pain, against the cities and towns, Ba-Ear-Hu, and she will put an end to, Wakala, she will eliminate, the boasting of their false prophets, Ba-Hu, the belligerence of their religious spokesman. Because of, Min, their counsel and schemes, their advice and practices, Moezahem, their opinions and claims, they will be destroyed, Akal, they will be devoured. Howsha 11-6. My people, YNE, are determined, Tala, are stubbornly hung up and bent, to be wayward and rebellious, backsliding while defecting from, Mishubah, to turn away from engaging in a relationship with, me, Eni. And although they will call out to the Almighty, Wa'el al-Kara, he will not reciprocate or respond in kind by lifting them up, Hu Yakad lo room. Howsha, he liberates, Hosea 11:7. 398 We have correctly deduced that Israel would be subject to Miqra'ey, ongoing religious and political persecution elsewhere, since they would not be returning to the Eres Miqra'ey. Although, Asherah would come to represent the blessed Mother of God and Queen of Heaven. Indirectly, she would rule over them through the rise of Roman Catholicism. And it was all because Israel defiantly refused all overtures to restore the covenant relationship. Many would come to swirl a sword over the cities and towns of Israel. The Philistines, Assyrians, and Babylonians would take turns flailing away at the wayward nation. The Greeks, Imperial Romans, Roman Catholics, and Muslims would follow, each determined to silence the annoying claims of Israel's false prophets. And indeed, it was the likes of Akiba that would irritate invading tyrants to the point they would rather pummel the nation and enslave the people than merely subjugate them. And God simply didn't care. He had no affinity for the abused or abusive. They were all foreign to him. His people had become belligerent and hell-bent on irritating the Almighty. Helping them would have sent the wrong message. They were on their own and making a mess of it. They would call out to God, but there was no way on this side of reconciliations that he could morally respond. What follows reflects parental anguish over a lost child. These words, spoken in first person, reveal the character of the Most High. Because he loves, he can be hurt. How can I give you up, Eknathanotta, Ephraim, Ephraim? How can I surrender you, Magan Batar? How can I hand you over, Yisrael, Yisrael? How can I give you up, Eknathanotta? How can I offer you up, like Adam and to be like Odma, Car 399 Adma, to be like the earth, the material world, and the dirt of the ground but, also, to suffer a similar fate of the 5 cities destroyed including Sodom and Gomorrah? How can I cause you, Simotta, to be like Zarboim, Car Zarboim, to be similar to the militant, another of the 5 cities annihilated along with Sodom and Gomorrah? My heart, Labeni, my thinking and judgment, is turned upside down and greatly distressed, Hapak, is overwhelmed and disturbed, fatigued and drained, within me, Aleni. And yet, at the same time, Yakad, my compassion and sympathy, Nishimimeni, my feelings of affection and desire to encourage is aroused, Kamar, is moved to emotion, is kindled and burns, growing warm. Howsha 11-8. So, I will not act upon, Lo Asar, I will not do anything about, my intense anger and burning indignation, Charan Afeni, my great frustration and intense disappointment. I will never again, Lo Shub, allow the corruption or destruction, Shakath the ravaging, of Ephraim, Ephraim, for indeed, KY, I am God, El Anoki, and not man, Walo Ish, set apart and distinct, Kadaush, special and unique, uncommon and unpopular, in your midst, Barkira Botta, surrounding and within you. I will not return agitated or displeased, Lo Bo Bar Ear, I will not arrive to pursue this or to be included, frustrated, or anguished. Howsha, he protects, Hosea 11:9. While he has not been offered much in return, Yahowah has invested 80 lifetimes and 200 generations into Yisrael. That is a lot for a father to give up, no matter how rotten the child is. He's God, which puts him in a position to outweigh the worst of them. Even if that is almost every person in each 400 generation, even if only 1 in a million souls can be salvaged, as God, he can be patient and pick a few figs along the way. By making the comparison to Adama and Zarboim, Yahowah is saying that he does not want Israel to be destroyed and forgotten. While they were reprehensible and deserved their fate, we at least remember Sodom and Gomorrah, but not the other cities now buried beneath the sands of time. There is also a play on words with Yahowah not wanting Ephraim to endure the same fate as the cities of the plain and become nothing more than insignificant carbon, and worthless ash. Further, he did not want Yisrael to replicate his experience with Adam, when man's choices led to him being expelled from the garden. God wanted the opposite for Yisrael, which is why he opened the door for their return. And of course, Yahowah wanted Yisrael to be special and not like the rest of the Adama, earth. Therefore, even after having rolled snake eyes a couple of 100 times, by enabling a remnant to endure the gauntlet of Goim, Yahowah recognized that he would eventually prevail. Some would in the end choose him over them. And for this reason, he would not give up on them. Yahowah has grown weary of his people's pathetic behavior. Yisrael has distressed and fatigued the Almighty. And yet, he still harbors feelings for them. He wants to console and encourage them. He wants to be able to love them again. And for this to occur, he cannot act upon his frustration and disappointment. Yisrael's response to God has been so abysmal, their devotion to their religious myths so pervasive, they have earned Sodom's fate, especially since they have always known better. But this experiment isn't over. There are 401 some lingering reactions to process. And the Creator of the universe, for better and worse, is going to see it through right to the very end. Had any of us been in his position, we would have ransacked the laboratory and tossed out the petri dishes long ago. The concluding line of Howsha 11-9 is intriguing. It suggests that Yahowah will be content with the results of Kippurim upon his return. If not the quantity, then at least the quality of the Israelites who will have come to their senses will make a father proud. Yahowah will not be agitated or displeased any longer. His frustrations will subside, giving way to a long-awaited and loving reunion. Clearly, there will be carnage on Judgment Day. All who have come against God's people, including the Israelites who remained religious to the end, will be annihilated. Yahowah will have to clean house before he can move back in with his children. In the end, at long last, after all of this, and during the last days, they will walk to, Chalaq, they will move toward, making their way to, going about their lives and living for, imperfect, Yahowah, a transliteration of Yahovah as instructed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence, as if he were a lion, area, becoming like Yahowah's lion, from Ara, the lion descendant from Asher and Yer. He will roar, shag, he will shout, making a boisterous proclamation, imperfect. Indeed, then, his voice will be thunderous, shag, he will roar forevermore, imperfect. Then the children, benim, across the sea, Minyam, of the west and among the Gentiles, will become respectful, even as they are astonished, Karad, they will be startled and surprised, even a bit anxious, but ultimately reverent. Howsha 11:10. 402 They will be anxious, even astonished, Karad, they will be surprised and startled, then respectful and in a hurry, similar to, birds on the wing, Sifor, the first sparrows to depart in the morning, from Zafar, to arise and leave early, from having been confined and abused in Miraim, out of being besieged and enclosed, troubled and harassed, from to be bound and confined by an adversary, assaulted, shut up, and enclosed, troubled as if in a concentration camp, and like doves. Yauna, from the land, Miqra'ey, out of the realm, of Ashur, Assyria, Ashur, of the blessed goddess of good fortune worshipped as Asherah, the queen of heaven and mother of God. Then I will live with them, Yashabhem, I will approach them, establishing a dwelling place to remain with them, beside their homes and families, Al-Bethihem, prophetically declares, Naam, Yahowah, the Almighty's proper designation pronounced as instructed by his Torah, guidance on his higher existence and his role in our Shalom, reconciliation as our Eloah, God. Howsha, he liberates, Hosea 11:11. We have arrived at Yom Kippurim, the day of reconciliations. The year is 6,000 year. At long last, and in the end, God's people will come home. They will finally stop walking away. And while they will be anxious, they will not be timid. They will return with the stride and roar of a lion. Yisrael's voice will be thunderous, his resonance reassuring and confident. He will be as is Yahweh, the lion of Yahowah. We have two very different ways to interpret the Benim Minyam who will be Karad, surprised. I chose to reflect my preference, which is to see many of the Israelites living across the Mediterranean Sea and 403 Atlantic Ocean in America, thousands among the millions, anxiously, albeit respectfully, returning home as birds on the wing. They, like Yauna, will come to prefer the company of Yah to that of being harassed by Gentiles. Their stay in the nation emblematic of the reincarnation of Asherah worship, the land of Christians, will have come to an end. The alternative is to perceive these children of the sea as estranged from Yahowah and exiled from the land. Such individuals will be terrified upon God's return because they will be seen as adversarial. And since there will be some of the former and many of the latter, both interpretations are valid, depending upon one's perspective. My preference in this regard is twofold. First, I want Yahowah to be pleased, to be excited that so many of his people are returning to him. It would be marvelous for Yom Kippurim in 6,000 year to play out as the most extraordinary moment in Yahowah's eternal existence. So, I'm envisioning Israelites flying home and flocking to their Father. I am also being optimistic. I want to think that the work we have and will accomplish in the preceding 32 years has made a difference in the lives of God's people. What better reward than having contributed to the most endearing celebration of life in the covenant that God and his people have ever known? I want their most joyous days to be before them so that their troubled past is forgotten. After all that Yahowah has endured, he deserves a day of reconciliations that lives up to its name. The second reason for the positive interpretation of the Benim Minyam who will be Karad is based upon what Yahowah said before this and then also how he concludes his appeal to his people. He is envisioning Yashab Hem, 404 living and remaining among them. He wants them to become part of his family once again. Since Howsha has been addressing Yahowah's return for his people, to better appreciate what is occurring on this day, let's reconsider what God inspired Zechariah to write about it. This will also serve to explain why the children of the sea will be anxious, albeit for different reasons. This is the prophetic pronouncement, Masa, of Yahowah, word, Debar, concerning, Yisrael, Yahowah, who spread out and curved, Nata, the universe, Shamaim, and established, Yasad, the earth, Erez, and who shaped the impulse for, Yazar, the spirit, Ruach, inside, Bar Kireb, Adam, humankind, Adam, predicts, Naum, Zechariah 12-1, Behold, Hine, I am preserving, Sim, Yahushalem, Yahushalem, as the threshold and doorway, Saf, of reeling and staggering intoxication, Ral. For all of the surrounding people, La Shurl Han and Sabib, and also for those who are against, Wagamal, Yahweh. This will exist during, Hayabar, the siege, the methodical confining of the city and blocking off access during this time of trouble, Hamatsor, against, Yahushalem, the source of instruction on reconciliation, Yahushalem. Zechariah 12-2. It shall be, Wahaya, during this time, Baha Yom Ha-Hu, that I will cause, Sim, Yahushalem, Yahushalem, to be an immovable stone and difficult challenge, Eben Marmasa, for all these people, La Shurl Ha-Am. Everyone who attempts to move it, Shurl Am-As-Hai, will lacerate and impale themselves, Sarat. And yet, Gentiles from every ethnicity, nation, religion, 405 and place on earth, Shurl Gawam Ha-Erez, will gather against it, Asaph al-Hai. Zechariah 12-3. During that time, Baha Yom Ha-Hu, Yahowah, declares prophetically, Naum, I will strike and destroy, Naka, every, Shurl, fast-moving and flying weapon of war, Suz, by confusing, Baha Timahoun, the drivers, Rakab, causing them to be irrational and erratic, Shigan. So, for the sake of the house, al-Baith, of Yahweh, I will keep my eyes open, Pakek Ethine Eni, and therefore, every one of these peoples, Shurl Ha-Am, fast-moving and flying weapons of war, Suz, I will afflict, Naka, with the inability to see, Baha Iran. Zechariah 12-4. Then the close friends and lovers, al-Yuf, of Yahweh, will use their best judgment, Labhem, to say, Amar, for me, La Eni, those who live and remain in, Yashab, Yahushalem, are supported and empowered, strengthened, equipped, and enabled, Amsa, by, Yahowah, their God, Elohim Hem, and his conscripts who assist, Zaba. Zechariah 12-5. In that day, Baha Yom Ha-Hu, I will cause, Sim, the close friends, related family, and lovers, Al-Yuf of Yahweh, the beloved of Yahweh, to be like, Ka, a flaming pulpit, Kya Esh, in the timbers, Etz, and like a blazing torch, Laphideth, among stalks of fallen grain, Amiah, and they will devour them, Kal, to the right and to the left, Al-Yamin Al-Samaul, enveloping all of the surrounding armies and peoples, Shurl Ha and Sabib, while Yahushalem, shall continue to be inhabited, now and forevermore, Yashabod, succeeding, with one thing logically 406 following another, through time, Taketh in, Yahushalem. Zechariah 12-6. Yahowah, will rescue and deliver, saving and protecting, Yahweh, homes and households, Ohol, first and foremost, and in the initial phase, Baha Rishon, so that, Laman, the honor and glory, Tifereth, of the house, Baith, of Dowd, my beloved, Dowd, and the splendor, Tifereth, of the inhabitants of Yasab, Yahushalem, are not surpassed by, Lo Gadol, Yahweh, Yahweh. Zechariah 12-7. On that day, Bar Ha-Yam Ha-Hu, Yahweh, will defend, Ganon, the inhabitants of Yasab, Yahushalem, and have their backs, bod. So it will exist, Wahaya, that the wavering and weak-kneed, Kashal, among them, Barhem, on that day, Bar Ha-Yam Ha-Hu, will be likened unto, Ka, Dowd, and the house of Dowd, my beloved, Wabath Dowd, will be like God, Ka Elohim, similar to a spiritual implement, and heavenly messenger, Ka Malach of Yahowah, in their appearance, La Panahem. Zechariah 12-8. And it will come about, Wahaya, at that time, Bar Ha-Yam Ha-Hu, that I will seek to hold responsible and thus accountable, thereby choosing, Bakosh, to decimate and exterminate, La Shamed, all of, Shurl, the Gentiles, Hargawim, who will have come against, Harbo Al, Yahushalem, source of guidance on reconciliation, Yahushalem. Zechariah 12-9. And I will pour out, Shafak, upon, Al, over, the house, Bath of Dowd, and on the inhabitants of, Al Yashab, Yahushalem, the spirit, Ruach, of genuine mercy, compassion, loyal love, and favorable acceptance 407 Chen, pleading for clemency and forgiveness, Takanyun. So they will look, Nabat, to me, Eleni, accompanied by the one whom, Asher, they have pierced, Dakar, and they will lament, being exceedingly emotional, while Sapad, over him, Al-Hu, as one shrieks, Karmist, when reunited with someone special, making the family whole, Al-Ha-Yakid, anguished, Wa Marah, over him, Al-Hu, as one despairs, Karmarah, over the firstborn, Al-Ha-Baka. Zechariah 12-10. At that time, Bar Ha-Yam Ha-Hu, the shrieks and shouts, Harmist, will be loud and mournful, Gadol, in Yahushalem, Bar Yahushalem, will be like, Ka, the outcry, Harmist of Hadod Rimon, in the valley, Baka, of Megiddo, the gathering, invading, penetrating, and attacking of innumerable troops, Majidan. Zechariah 12:11. Then the land and earth, Ha-Eres, shall mourn, Sapad, with the nations and races, political and religious groups, Misfaka, by themselves, boasting about their false prophets, Bad, the political and religious divisiveness along with the social and cultural institutions, Misfaka, of the house of Dowd, aka, Yisrael, Bath Dowd, isolated and by themselves boasting regarding their religious leaders with undue confidence, Bad, their women, ever prideful and mistaken, by themselves. Ishahem la Bad, the political and religious dissension and the discordant rhetoric, Misfaka, of the house of Nathan, Bath Nathan, by itself, la Bad, and their women by themselves, Wa Ishahem la Bad, Zechariah 12:12, the divided loyalties and growing schism, Misfaka, of the house of Loe, Bath Loe, isolated by itself, la Bad, along with their wives by themselves, Wa Ishahem la Bad, and also the 408 disruptive and contentious pros, Misfaka, of the Shimi, the Benimite of the house of Shaul who threw rocks at Dowd, Shimi, separated and mistaken by themselves, la Bad, along with their wives, Wa Ishahem la Bad. Zechariah 12:13. During that day, Bar Ha-Yam Ha-Hu, there will be, Haya, a resource opened eliciting a response, a fountain and wellspring which is released, flowing for all to hear and respond, Makor Patak, of the house of Dowd, La Bath Dowd, and for the inhabitants of Yahushalem, Wa La Yashab Yahushalem, to reconcile having been misdirected and wrong, to purify those who had previously missed the way, Chatak, and to purge detestable corruption, Wa La Nida. Zechariah 13:1. It shall come to exist, Wahaya, on that day, Bar Ha-Yam Ha-Hu, prophetically declares, Naum, Yahowah, of the spiritual implements, Zaba, I will uproot and banish, Karat, that which is associated with the names and designations, Shem, of the vexing and grievous images and displeasing objects of religious veneration, Azab, from, Min, the land and earth, Eres, so that they are no longer recalled, proclaimed, or remembered, Walo Zakar, ever again, Ode. Moreover, Wagam, those who claim to have been inspired such that they speak for God, Eth Ha-Nabi, along with the infamous and religiously defiling spirit, Wa Eth Ruach Ha-Tumar, I will invalidate and banish, disrobing with great animosity, Obar, from the land and earth, Min Eres. Zechariah 13:2. It shall come to pass, Wahaya, that if anyone, Kewaish, claims to speak as a prophet, Nobba, again, Ode, then his father, Wa-Hu, and his mother, Wa-Hu, will say, Amar, to the child they conceived and 409 bore, La-Hu Yalod, you shall not continue to live, Lo Chea, for indeed, you speak, debar, lies, betraying others for no reason, succor, in the name, place, and reputation, Shem, of Yahowah, Yahowah. Then his father, YYV8C7, and his mother, YYV8C7, who conceived and bore him, Yalod, Dakar, will pierce him and revile him, Dakar, along with what he predicts, Bar Nabi, Zechariah 13-3. On that day, Bar Ha-Yam Ha-Hu, the individual, Ish, claiming to be able to foretell the future and speak for God, Ha-Nabi, will, Haya, know that it is wrong and will be too embarrassed, Bosh, to share their revelation or dream, Shiziyam, through prophecy, Bar Noba, and he will not play a religious dress-up, while lo labish adirth seer, in order to deceive, Laman Kakash. Zechariah 13-4. So, Wah, he will say, Amar, I am not a prophet, lo Nabi. I am an individual, an Okish, who serves, Abad, the realm of mankind and the earth, Odama. Because indeed, from, min, my youth, nor I'm any, I have made merchandise of, Kana any, men, Adam. Zechariah 13-5. So, if someone asks him, Wa Amar el-Hu, what is this plague, how are the people impaired, and why this loss of life behind this devastating pandemic, Wahamakah that you have influenced by manipulating everything under your control, Bayan your daughter. And he will say, Wa Ma, regarding these associations and this path through life, Asher, I was overwhelmed and stricken, Naka, in the house, Baith, of the one who appreciates and desires me, Ahab any. Zechariah 13-6. 410 You have chosen to provide false testimony, gloating over your decision to be malicious, proud of your deceptions, a war, which chisel away at Korib, Cherub, in opposition to my shepherd, Al-Ra any, and against the empowered and strong man, while Geber, who serves as my associate, Amith any, prophetically declares, Naum, Yahowah, of the vast array of spiritual implements and heavenly messengers, Zaba. Zechariah 13-7. When you choose to strike the shepherd, Naka eth Ra, then the sheep are scattered and attacked, Wa pulls heart sown. So then, Wa, I will return, and my hand and influence will bring restoration, Shubyod any, on behalf of, Al, these little ones, Ha Tsar. Zechariah 13-7. It shall come to exist, Wa higher, throughout, Bar Shirl, the land, Ha Erez, prophetically predicts, Naum, Yahowah, the portion that is 2/3, Pashanim Bar High, shall be cut off and eliminated, Karath, perishing, Gower, and, Wa, 1/3, Ha-Shalishi, will be the remnant spared and preserved of them, Yathar Bar High. Zechariah 13-8. I will come to be included among, Bo, this 1/3, Eth Ha-Shalishi. In the fire, Bar Ha-Esh, I will purge and refine them, perfecting them by removing their impurities, making them treasured and flawless, Wazaraf Hem, as one refines, Kazaraf, silver which is highly desired, Eth-Ha-Keys all while examining them, verifying their genuineness, Wabachan Hem, as one assesses the authenticity of gold, Karbachan Eth-Ha-Zahab. They will individually offer a summons and a welcome, calling out in, Hukara Bar, my personal and proper name, Shem, and I, myself, will answer them, Wa any Anna Eth-Hu. 411 I will say, confessing and declaring, Amar, each one, Hu, is my family, Am. And he or she will individually say, Wa Hu Amar, Yahowah, is my God, Elohim any. Zechariah 13-9. Behold, Hine, a day, Yaum, of return is coming, Bo, to approach, La, Yahowah. And then, Wa, that which is good and valuable, Shalal, will be apportioned and assigned, Chalaq, to you in your midst, Athbar Kirebath. Zechariah 14-1. I will gather, Wa Asap, all, Shirl, of the people from different races and places, Gawim, 2, El, Yahushalem, to join the battle lines for war, Laha Milchama. The city, Ha-Ir, will be seized by force, Lakid. The families and their houses, Wa-Baith, will be plundered, Shasas, and the women, Waha-Isha, wives and mothers, will be raped, Shakab. Half, Chatsi, of the population of the city, Ha-Ir, will leave, Yatsa, as exiles, Bahagola, but the remainder, Wayether, of the people, Ha-Am, will not be cut off or banished, Lo Karat, from, Min, the city, Ha-Ir. Zechariah 14-2. Then Yahowah, will come forth to serve, Yatsa, and he will oppose, Walakam, the Gentiles, Bahagawim. For them, Ha-Hem, it will be like a day, Kar-Yaum, when he engages in battle, fighting a hostile force, Lakam Hu, during a time of war, Var-Yaum Karab. Zechariah 14:3. On that specific day, his day, Bar ha-Yom ha-Hu, he will be present, his feet standing, Amod Regal Hu, upon the mount, Al-Ha, of Olives, Hazith, which, for the benefit of the relationship, Asher, faces Alpana, Yahushalem, on the east, Min Kidem. Then, Wah, the Mount of Olives, Ha-Hazith, will split into two, Bucca, down the middle, Chatzihu, from 412 min the east, Mizrak, and to the west toward the sea, Wayam, a great valley, Gay Gadaul, resulting from the tremendous force, Maud, will move, Mosh, half, Chatzi, of the mountain, Ha-Ha, northward to conceal, Zarfaun, and half of it to the south, toward the Negeb, Wachatzihu Negeb. Zechariah 14:4. Flee, news, to the valley, Gay, of my mountain, Ha-Eni, because, Ky, the gorge, Gay, will reach, Naga, the mountains Harim, of Atzel, being withdrawn and separated so as to be beside and near, El Atzel. You should withdraw, news, in the beneficial manner, Ka Asher, you escaped, news, from the presence, Min Panna, of the earthquake, Rosh, in, Va, the days, Yam, of King, Melech, Uzziah, of Yahweh, Yahweh. Zechariah 14:5. There will not be, lo higher, on his day, Bar ha-Yam ha-Hu, a diminishing, Kipean, of the esteemed and beloved, valued and respected, Yakar, light, or, Zechariah 14:6. It shall be, Wah higher, the one, Ekad, day, Yam, which, Hu, is known, Yada, to approach, La, Yahowah. Neither day, lo Yam, nor night, Wa lo Layla, will exist, higher. Then at the timing, La Eth, of sundown, Ereb, there will be, higher, light, or, Zechariah 14:7. It will transpire, Wah higher, at this time, Bar ha-Yam ha-Hu, that living waters, Chaim Aim, shall flow, Yatsa, from, Min, Yahushalem, half, Chatzi, of them toward, Hemael, the eastern, Ha-Kadmoni, sea, Ha-Yam, and half, Wachatzi, toward, Hemael, the western, Akaran, sea, Ha-Yam. They shall continually exist, higher, with, Bar, the summer fruit, Ha-Kates, as with, Wa-Bar, the autumn harvest, Ha-Cherith. Zechariah 14:8. 413. And then, Wah, Yahowah, will at that moment, higher, approach the king, La Melech, over, Al, the entire, Shurl, earth, Eres. During that day, which is his time, Bar ha-Yam ha-Hu, he will first and foremost be, higher Ekad, Yahowah, with his one, singular, Wa Ekad Hu, personal and proper name, Shem. Zechariah 14:9. And within her, Wa Bar Hai, they will live, Yashab. There will never again be, lo higher ode, a sanctioned possession or destruction, Harim. Yahushalem, will be inhabited, Yashab, safely and securely, Beitar. Zechariah 14:11. So then, Wah, this, Joth, will be, higher, the plague of rebuke, Majephah, which, Asher, Yahowah, will inflict upon, Nagaf, all the nations which and people who, Sherleth ha-Asher, organize to fight, Zaba, against, Al, Yahushalem, now, at this time, Henna, their flesh will dissolve while their proclamations vanish, Asar Makakhu, as they are standing, Walmod, on their feet, Al Regalhu. And their eyes, Ein Hu, will melt, Makak, in their sockets, Ha-Kori. Their tongues, Wa Lashon Hu, will liquefy, Makak, in their mouths, Bar Pehu. Zechariah 14:12. It shall come to pass, Wa higher, in, Bar, that day, Yam ha-Hu, that Yahowah, greatness, abundant power, and enormity, Rab, around them, Barhem, will cause, higher, consternation and confusion, anxiety and bewilderment, Mehuma. So, people, Wash, will strong-arm other individuals, Chazek Ish Yod, who are their fellow countrymen, and evil associates who are similarly mistaken, Rhea Hu. The hand of one, Yod Hu, will be raised, Allah, against, Al, the hand, Yod, of another one of their rotten 414 companions and boisterous friends, Rhea Hu. Zechariah 14:13. Moreover, Gam, Yahweh, will participate, fighting and then dining, Lacham, Lechem, in, Bar, Yahushalem, source of guidance on reconciliation, Yahushalem. And he will gather up and collect, Asaph, the wealth, Chael, of all of the surrounding, Sabib, Gentiles and their nations, Hargawim, including gold, zahab, and silver, wakizb. And then the offensive and treacherous religious garments were bijed, from far and wide and in great abundance, la rob maud, Zechariah 14:14, will similarly endure, waken, the rebuking plague, majefa. It will come upon, higher, the flying and mobilized weapons, the troop transports and supply trucks, ha-suz, ha-pirid, ha-jamal, wa-ha-chamor, along with whatever other beastly thing, wa-shurl ha-behema, which is associated with them that may exist in their camps, ashahaya ba-ha-makaneh ha-hem. These too will experience the pandemic, be defeated, and then exterminated, ha-majefa ha-joth. Zechariah 14:15. It will be, wa-haya, that everyone who survives, shurl ha-yathar, out of all of the Gentile nations, min shurl ha-gawim, which have come against, ha-boal, Yahushalem, as the source of teaching and guidance on reconciliation, Yahushalem, will ascend, Allah, to the degree necessary, min day, year after year, shana bar shana, to show up and make a declaration, chor, to the king, la melech, and to celebrate, wa la shagag, the festival feast, eth chag, of Sukkah, camping out, ha-sukkah, with Yahowah of the spiritual implements, Yahowah Zaba. Zechariah, remember Zechariah 14:16. 415. It will be the day of days, the most extraordinary moment of all time. While bad for those who oppose Yahowah, it is the beginning of forever for those who love him.